All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Monday webinar. I'm Mackenzie Keller with the CST Pool, and today we have Antoinette Joy, a leadership consultant with CPS HR, joining to present today's webinar, Organizing and Prioritizing for Success. As the name suggests, today's webinar will be about how to organize your workspace and set your priorities in order to have the most success and productivity. I will turn it over to Antoinette in a moment, but just so you know, the chat is always open. So if you have questions during the webinar, you can put your questions in there, and then we will also have some time for a Q&A at the end. Antoinette, it'll take me a second to bring up the slides, but after that, it is up to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mackenzie. And good morning again to everyone who has joined us on this Monday morning. I know sometimes that can be extra challenging, so I appreciate you all being here. Like Mackenzie said, my name is Antoinette, and I am your facilitator for the next hour. And we get to talk about organizing and prioritizing our workday, our work environment. However, everything we talk about today is very transferable into your private life as well. So my background is human resources. I worked in HR for over 20 years, wide variety of industries and positions. My last role, I was the director of HR. And then about 7 years ago, decided that I wanted to focus on training and work more as a consultant. So that's what I've been doing. And I get to talk about and facilitate lots of different topics. Of course, today we're going to be talking about organizing. So do have a couple quick announcements for you all. My style is very conversational because I want to hear from you. And these presentations are much more interesting when there's a variety of voices. So participation is expected, and it will absolutely enhance your learning. So the more that you all get into the fun that I have planned for you today, the more likely you will leave here with something that you can apply immediately. So that would be at 10:01. You should be able to start applying some of the things that we are talking about. So in order to participate, what of course we're going to be doing with this particular format is using chat. And so I will be asking lots of questions. I will be monitoring the chat and incorporating your feedback as we talk about a variety of different subjects. So I look forward to hearing from all of you, and we also will have a couple activities. So I've got a lot planned for us in a short amount of time. So let's get into it. What you're going to learn here, what you're going to leave here with, is understanding ways to reduce clutter. Anybody here have a challenge with clutter? My guess is I'm not the only one. Coincidentally, I happened to go to a seminar myself yesterday from somebody who is a home organizer. So I also got, as recent as yesterday, some really cool tips. One of the things that that presenter said was that clutter is really delayed decisions. And I thought that was interesting. So we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about ways to prioritize what is most important. We all know that the one thing we can't create is more time. And so what we need to do instead is manage the time that we have. And then my goal is for you all to be creating an action plan. And so that means as we go through this hour, when you hear something that really resonates with you, something that you think will really help you, I encourage you in the moment to write that down in the form of an action item. So it may sound like, or it might read something like, I will, and then X, whatever it is that you hear today that you enjoy, that you think will be helpful. So I will give you those little reminders as we go through our hour, but I do encourage you to write down maybe one or two things that you really think is going to help you as we go through the day, or we go through this morning. So the first topic, we're going to start with organization. And my first question for you is, how do you know that someone is organized? Maybe, it's not necessarily we're talking about ourselves, but when you think about the people you work with, the people that you interact with, what are some things that organized people say and do? So would love to see some comments in chat. How do you know? How are you observing other people who seem to be organized? What are the clues? I'm going to get you started with one. And I would say folks that are on time, right? When we know that people are, they show up on time, they're prepared, they've got really good questions, we know that they're likely organized. They didn't just run into that meeting at the last second. So yes, I'm seeing some other really great comments here. So people who write things down are sometimes showing that is an organizational tool that works for them. Really like this one. They can find documents without much thought. That's when I know that I need to do some more work myself, is when I try to find something and I can't find it. That is the reminder. All right, Antoinette, you are not as organized as you thought you were. So that's a great one. People who are organized are really good at following up on tasks. So they're usually the ones that are helping others stay on track because they are anticipating future needs. And I also agree with the comment that when somebody is organized, they likely display confidence. And it's because they are not working in this chaotic unknown. They're very clear on what's happening now and what's going to happen next, and they're able to set themselves up for success. That's going to, of course, create some confidence. So great. Whoever it is that you are thinking about or that you just envisioned, continue to use them as a role model. And, even after this morning, check in with them and maybe ask them, what is your favorite or best organization tip? And continue to use those people as folks to learn from. All right, so we typically don't do anything unless we know there's a really good reason to do it. So we just touched a little bit on some things that could be helpful, right? If we are organized, we're going to be more confident. We're going to be prepared for success. We probably aren't going to be working in chaos. What are some other benefits? Why might we want to spend some time and energy into working on our organization and prioritization skills? What is this going to do for us? So again, I'm looking for your comments. And I see here, reduce stress. Yeah. I mean, there's so many opportunities for us to create stress for ourselves. When we are organized, we're going to reduce that stress. So sign me up for that. We're going to be more efficient. So we're going to be using our time more wisely. And again, we can't create more time. So let's not waste what we have. Oh, really like this comment, more time growing core skills. Yeah, because instead of utilizing our time in looking for things we can't find, we're now actually focusing on skill development and doing what is most important. You are also going to make probably a pretty good impression on your leaders when you are organized. That means you are somebody that can be counted on. And so when we go through these benefits, we're going to look at my list and we're going to see how it matches with your list. I have efficiency, which you all identified. Goal achievement, you all identified, right? You're going to get stuff done. Look at what the next one is. Confidence. We already had that one identified. And then, of course, we've got stress relief. So what you want to do is find what your why is, because this is going to take effort. It's going to take effort and energy to organize and prioritize. So you want to be really clear on why you want to do that for yourself. Then you're more likely to actually follow through. All right, so whatever that is for you, maybe that's something you can put on the top of your action plan, which is, why do you want to be organized? What are you going to benefit from when you are actually achieving this particular skill? All right. One of the things that sometimes gets in the way is that we feel like there's a lot of work that needs to be done to get organized. And while maybe to start, you might have a little bit more heavy lifting, what we're going to learn here in just a moment from Jim, who is a brain coach, and what he's going to tell us is in 1 minute, he's going to give us, I think, quite a bit of relief here on what it takes to be a little bit better. So we don't have to go from current state right now to ideal state overnight. That's not how people change and develop. They do it a different way. And so I'm going to go ahead and play this clip. It's just 1 minute, and you're going to hear from an expert. And I will say he absolutely is an expert. If you look him up later, you will find a lot of good information about him. I'm hoping we aren't going to see any ads, but if we do, I promise I will get rid of them as soon as possible.
It's about advancing and progressing beyond what you currently believe is possible. And part of that mindset is putting in the effort. People who really excel, they put on a little bit more effort. It's not necessarily something really radically huge. It's that a little bit more discipline, that little bit more of practice, that little bit more of training, that little bit more of learning that day, of serving, going beyond what you currently are doing to put a little bit more. And from that, guess what? Comes an incredible amount of reward. And I want to challenge you as your brain coach to go one more level, that there is another level of you in your focus, in your concentration, in your ability to study. Go a little bit extra in your reading, in your ability to be present with individuals, and watch the incredible rewards come back to you. Here's the thing, the bad news, to accomplish anything takes effort. The good news, it doesn't take as much as you think, because most people aren't willing to put in that extra effort.
I just got my latest. All right. So what do y'all think about that? What did you hear from our brain coach? What was his wise advice? It was a really simple message, something that we can all attain to do. Make it simple. Yeah, a little bit more effort. That's it. A little bit more effort. So you think about what is one small thing that you can do, again, today, we're going to practice today, that can help you be a little bit more organized. That's how good habits are built. And you just keep building on that. We don't need to make it really big and complicated. Just a little bit more effort. And what we're learning from him, and he has a lot of research and data, is most people aren't willing to do that. Most people aren't willing to be really intentional and tell themselves, again, set themselves up for success and just do a little something more. So as we continue to go through our hour together, I want you to be thinking about, what are you willing to put a little more effort towards? And those little things add up to a lot. All right, we're going to start with this challenge that many people have, which is clutter. And I already told you I added this to my presentation, that after yesterday, clutter equals delayed decisions. And that meant, that just made so much sense to me. So what are some examples? I want you to think about this, and this is just an opportunity to share and really, establish the fact that we all have a lot in common. So what are some examples of clutter in your workplace? And you can just right now look around, and what do you see? So I see a binder clip sitting here that has absolutely no purpose. There's no reason that I need this binder clip here. So, we add these little things up and it gets to be a lot. So What are some examples of clutter in your workplace? Let's see what you all have going on. All right, we've got piles of paper, the maintenance project materials that are built up in my office, drawers of cables. That was something that we talked about yesterday in the presentation. How many of us have like a basket or a drawer of just random cables and cords? We have no idea what they go to. The tip on that one is as soon as you get a new cord, right, you have a new piece of equipment, you immediately, those accessories, you label them immediately and then put them in that drawer or that basket. You're always going to know what they are. All right. All right. What else? Oh, look at that. 100 plus emails. We're going to talk about that. Emails count. That is clutter. All right, outdated binders, outdated binders. And that's good that we are aware of that, right? We know they're outdated, which means we know it's going to be helpful to get them out of our space. There is no purpose. You know, when we're looking at clutter, we want to ask ourselves, do you use it? Question number one, do you use it? Outdated binders? The answer is no. We need to get rid of it. The second question is, do you need it? Do I need this binder clip sitting here in front of me while I teach classes? I do not. This is not helping me at all. So, do you need it? And then the last question is, do you love it? So maybe it's not something that you need or you use or you need, but you love it. So maybe you have a picture on your desk of a significant moment or person in your life. That's not clutter, right? You love it and there's some value to it. Great. That's not clutter, right? If there's things that we love, we get to keep them. All right, so here's your checklist. I've got a list here to get us, continuing to think about this and an action you can take. So once a day, or if that seems a little too much, you can do once a week. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Remember our brain coach, a little bit more effort. Set a timer for 5 minutes and focus on decluttering. And we've got 3 different categories that we can do that with. So the first one is our physical environment. And we just had a lot of examples about that. What is in my physical environment that I can put away? I have 3 pens sitting here. How many pens can I write with at once? I can only write with 1 pen. I can't write with 3. So, put things back where they belong. The next area to look at would be your digital space. Emails are one of them. I'm going to give you some tips on that in a little bit. Maybe you've got emails that you've read that you just haven't, put into the folder where it belongs. Get those things out of your inbox. Digital space. Do you have outdated digital files? Maybe on a desktop. That's where all of my miscellaneous weird things end up. And then my desktop has a whole lot. I had to buy a new computer this weekend because I managed to break one. And it was noticeable that, when I had to send it to the repair shop, right, where they're looking at it, they transferred the old stuff to the new stuff. Yeah, too much stuff on my desktop. It was a little embarrassing. Okay, third area that you can look at in this just quick 5-minute time frame, mental clutter. That's a thing, mental clutter. What is going on up here that you're thinking about over and over again that's bothersome, that you're telling yourself, don't forget that thing. Don't forget to call Antoinette at 2 today. And it adds up and it creates chaos, distraction, a lot of distraction from mental clutter, and overwhelm. Can I write something down? And then I don't have to keep thinking about it. Can I just, make that quick call so I'm not continuously, establishing, that I have that to do up here in my head. Make a list of your priorities. Now, these tips, of course, look different for everybody because we are not all designed the same way and we organize ourselves differently. But these are 3 categories that if you spent just 5 minutes a day or a week and just did a little bit more, choose a couple of these things, again, over time, we're going to be more organized, we're going to be less stressed, we're going to be more effective. And I'm going to let you practice this right now. Now, I'm not going to give you 5 minutes. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I'm going to time you for 2 minutes. And I want you to take, these 2 minutes, any of these 2 categories, all of these categories, and declutter. 2 minutes. I want you all to do this. This is your opportunity. So I'm putting my timer on. I will stop you at 2 minutes. You get to start now. 2 minutes. Any category, declutter. I'm playing too. One minute left. Look how much you're getting done. Thirty seconds left. All right, stop. That was 2 minutes. What did you do? What did you clear or act on? Let's see it in chat because I know we did some good stuff. I actually wasn't planning on doing the activity myself, but I did. So I found 3 things that I can throw away. That binder clip is gone. I found a little notepad that was on the ground halfway under a rug. That is gone. All right. So what did you all do? Let's look at this list. You had 2 minutes. All right. Look at all these things we did. And who doesn't have 2 minutes? I mean, that's the point of this activity, is to see how much you can actually accomplish by just doing a little bit more. A little bit more. How do you all feel right now? You have a tiny bit less clutter than you did 3 minutes ago. What are you noticing about how that feels? All right. It feels good. It is likely going to help you be more clear on what you actually want to focus on. We've got relief. We've got peace. I mean, who doesn't want these feelings every day, especially on a Monday morning? And, oh, I'm so happy for this comment. Well, we got 2 of them, productive and accomplished. we need that sense of accomplishment to keep us motivated to do more. So anytime you get a sense of accomplishment, even this, 3 little things of paper that I get to throw away now when I get to my garbage can, I've accomplished something and it feels good. All right. This might show up on your action plan. I will take 5 minutes a day to declutter. I will take 2 minutes a day to declutter. Maybe that's what ends up on your action plan. Now, many of you talked about emails. So that's the next thing we're going to talk about is how do we manage all of those emails? So there's lots of data out there that reminds us, if we don't already know, how many emails we receive, how many we send, how many we hold on to. It adds up and it's a lot of clutter. Every time you stop yourself to check an email, you hear that little ding, you notice something coming in, that interrupts our workflow every single time. And you add up those seconds throughout the day, now we've got wasted time again, using time that we don't have. So this is what you get to do. I'm going to put 2 articles in chat. Depending on your name, the letter of your first name, you're going to read either one article or the second article. Now, of course, you've got the links for both. So these are your resources, but we have limited time. So what I want you to do is identify, based in chat, what letter is your first name and which article does that align with. So there's 2 links in chat. You pick the right one. When you're done reading, I want you to put the answer to your question in chat. So if you're reading the article, Mastering Your Email Inbox, when you're done reading, immediately put in chat, what's one idea you're going to try? If you're reading Email Management, do you practice any of these 7 email sins? Again, come back in chat and put one idea you're willing to try. That's how I'm going to know that you're done reading. All right, so take a couple of minutes, and then I look forward to your comments in chat. All right, we've got 1 commitment already in chat. Thank you. I will try acting in bulk. Oh, isn't that empowering? Check email on my terms. All right, email was never meant to be instant communication. Right? You need an immediate answer, you call someone, or maybe you text them. Email is not meant for immediate responses. All right. Look at all of these commitments. Turn off sound for notifications. That might sound really scary. I really encourage you to try that, even if you do it for half a day, maybe the rest of today, and just see what happens, right? Turn off that notification. You can always turn it back on. It's okay. You can turn it back on if that sounds too scary, but give it a shot, experiment, and see what happens. And then pick, specific times to check the email. You never know. That might be the key for you. All right. So you've got lots and lots of ideas here. You have the link for both articles. I encourage you to keep these handy. Maybe you choose one thing now to try, and then in a couple of weeks, you bring this back, look at it again, and choose something else. Keep choosing a little something to do over time to continue to make progress. All right, we're going to move on to prioritization. We're about halfway through, so we're going to change not change, we're doing a little segue, and we're going to talk about prioritization. So I have a true false question for you. True or false? Multitasking makes us more productive. True or false? All right. Good answer. We know what the answer is. We know it's false. However, we still try to do it. We still very consistently find ourselves saying, I'm a really good multitasker. I can do more things at once. Like, this is my superpower. Even if you think you're multitasking, you really aren't. And there you go. We just got the comment in chat that explains why. Your mind can only focus on one thing at a time. So you are not going to be doing an excellent job when you are doing more than one thing at once. And you actually really aren't. You think you are, but you aren't. So when we are trying to do this, we are reducing productivity. And some of you might be thinking, no, lady, you don't know what you're talking about. That's not true. Data, data, data. So even though this might not feel true, it is true. And check this stat out. It takes 23 minutes to regain focus after a distraction. Who has an extra 23 minutes to just throw away? I know, 23 minutes. Now, I'm going to say that's probably not true for everyone, right? I think, we aren't clones, we're human beings, but maybe I should say it can take. But we're wasting time. And so when you can create, and I know we all have different jobs, sometimes some of these ideas are not realistic for the work that we do. But the more often you can find times where you can just focus on one thing, like I'm going to focus just for 20 minutes on this task, you're more likely to be successful in staying focused and being productive than the constant ping pong of different things. We're going to try this activity. We're going to have to do it quickly, but let's see how this plays out. So what I want you to do, if you have some paper nearby, is I want you to write the sentence, write the words, every letter, multitasking is inefficient. Then I want you to write the letters of the alphabet in order, A through Z, just A, B, C, D, right? And I want you to do it horizontally. All right, and I also want you to time yourself. So you're going to write that sentence, and then underneath it, you're going to just put the letters of the alphabet, and you're going to time yourself. So everyone do that now. And then when you're done, just put done in chat. Put the word done in chat. And make sure you write down how long it took you to do that. You don't have to share it in chat, but just make sure you have it written down. When you're done, put done in chat, and then we're going to move to the second step of this activity. All right. So now we're going to do something a little bit different. And this is what you get to do now. I'm going to time you for 2 minutes. And this time, you're going to switch back and forth between those two items that you just wrote down. So you're going to write M first, and then you're going to put in then you're going to write A, because that's the first letter of the alphabet. So M, and then you're going to write A. Then you're going to write the next letter in multitasking, which is U, and then you're going to write B. So you're writing both of these items, and you're multitasking, right? You're going to write both of them at the same time. You're going to do one letter of each one back and forth. Okay. I'm going to time you for 2 minutes again, and then I'm going to ask you a question. So go ahead and start. Got 30 more seconds for those who are still working. I see the comment, point taken. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop y'all, even though we aren't quite at 2 minutes, but I'm going to stop you. Okay, so the question is, was the second version harder to do? And did it take more time? My guess is the answer is yes, it did. Yes, it did. So multitasking reduces productivity. And we actually aren't even multitasking. What we're doing is task switching. That's all you're doing. You aren't doing it at the same time. You're task switching. You know, you're on a phone call and you're typing an email. You aren't doing those two things at the same time. You're just going back and forth, and you're not going to be your best in either one of those situations. And we're losing accuracy every single time we do that switch. Our goal, right? The reason, we are getting paid and the reason we keep our jobs is because we do our jobs well with accuracy. This isn't going to help you. So there is a technique, you may have heard this before. It's called the Pomodoro technique. And the reason there's tomatoes on the slide is because Pomodoro means tomato. And the person who coined this idea, maybe I guess would be the right way to say that, he of course was an Italian, and he had a tomato timer on his counter, which is what gave him this idea. And so what you can consider doing, again, depending on your projects and your work, is try the Pomodoro technique, which is very, very simple. So you pick a time, 25 minutes is ideal. Maybe you do 15 minutes. We have to make this work for ourselves. But you pick one task. You set that timer. You block all distractions. Turn off that email notification. Don't answer the phone, right? Maybe even block your calendar so, people see that you are busy. 25 minutes, you focus on that task. Take a short break. 2 minutes is a short break. It doesn't have to be 15 minutes, but you step away, you come back, you're going to be refreshed and able to focus again for that amount of time to continue on that one thing. Give it a try. Why not? So the break is really important and the timing is really important, because I know for myself, if I'm creating a class, I will figure out pretty quickly that I have exceeded an appropriate amount of focus time, because all of a sudden I'm super irritated, right? The PowerPoint's not working, the computer's not doing what I want it to do, I can't find the right, content for the right spot, and all of a sudden I'm irritated. And then I realize, oh, I've been sitting here for 3 hours. I haven't had a sip of water. I haven't done anything but this. Of course I'm irritated. It's not that PowerPoint's not working anymore. I'm not working anymore. Breaks are really, really critical. So if this sounds intriguing, then maybe this goes on your action plan. I will try, or I will not try. We're going to take try out of it. I will do the Pomodoro technique once a week. And then just observe, how that impacts you. All right, I have another model for you to help you reflect on where you're spending your time, because we sometimes think we're more productive than we actually are. Kind of like we think we're better drivers than we actually are. Same idea. All right, so this is called the Eisenhower matrix. Very, very simple. We just have 4 quadrants. What we're using this to do is to assess, are we spending time in the right areas? So when we have tasks to do, they're either important, well, they're going to be, some level of importance and some level of urgency. And it's important to be intentional about understanding what each of those tasks are and how important they actually are and how urgent they actually are. If everything is important, then nothing's important. I'm pausing on purpose. So if we say everything's important, well, important is supposed to be something that, is different than the others. So if everything's important, nothing's important. So we really need to think about that. So when we're working on tasks that are both important and urgent, those are things we need to do, and we need to do them, right now. So that's that first box. Then we look at, okay, what am I doing that is important but not urgent? This is an important thing to do, but I don't necessarily have to do it in this moment. That is the planning quadrant. When we are doing things that are not important, but are urgent, what we want to try to do with those things is minimize those things because they're less important. So this is that email that comes in right now, or that phone call, or somebody comes to your desk, right, and says, do you have a minute? And we all know there's no such thing as just a minute. That minute is going to be at least 5 or 10 minutes. So we want to minimize those things. And then y'all, I think, are going to be clear on this one, right? What is not important and not urgent should not be done. We are eliminating those things. Now, you aren't going to really know what those things are until you really kind of pay attention to what you're doing. So it could be helpful to take a day, today would be fabulous, and observe yourself. As you think about what you're doing, what quadrant are you spending the most amount of time in? So quadrant one, what might those things look like? So those are going to be those emergency things, like all hands on deck. Your boss comes to you and says, stop everything. We need to do this thing. We need to go to this meeting. This is critical. Do this now. Those are the urgent things. We sometimes also feel like that is like a bit of a crisis. Now, we know those things will happen. There are going to be things that are going to pop up that we did not plan for that we need to attend to. The key here is you want to make sure that you have time carved out for those emergencies. If everything you're doing is in that box, then you don't have time for the all hands on deck. And that's when our stress and our burnout and everything starts to increase. So that means we need to spend time in our second quadrant planning more so we don't have everything in the crisis box. So I'm just going to keep using myself as an example because I do this to myself sometimes because I'm a human being like you. And, oftentimes I'm creating new classes, developing content. Well, there's always a deadline, right? Today I'm teaching this class. So I had to have this material finalized before today. Well, I could give myself a day, a week, a month. Typically I know my schedule far in advance. The more time I plan and give myself to work on it, the better the output is going to be. If I was doing this last night, I wasn't, folks. If I was doing this last night, I am going to now, what I did is I took something that should have been quality work that I worked on over time, and I turned it into a crisis. And now the work product is not going to be as good. So did I have to work on this material June 12th? No, I don't know what that day is. I didn't. But if I didn't work on it at all in June, now I'm setting myself up for failure. So the question is, are you spending time, carving out your time for those long-term projects? And this is also anything that grows over time. Relationships, right? You never talk to your coworkers. You don't spend any time building a relationship with them. And then one day you need them to help you with something. Well, I might not be available to help you if I don't even know who you are and you've never even shown any interest in me. Building relationships is something that happens in this quadrant. What you're doing right now, you're taking a training class to help you be more successful. Did you have to do that today? No. But if you never take training classes and you never work on personal development, that's going to catch up with you. Okay, next quadrant. This might be the trickiest one. This one's kind of hard. It's called trivia. So it's things that aren't important, but feel like we need to do them right now. So that is that email that comes across. We probably don't actually have to take care of it right away, but we might tell ourselves this is important. You want to challenge yourself. You really want to try to minimize this. Is this really important? Or can I carve time out for, this afternoon at 2 to take care of these trivial but necessary things? Somebody comes to your desk. Do you have a minute? You can say no, right? It's okay to say, and I'm going to teach you how to do that in a minute. It's okay to say, no, I actually don't. I need to finish this task. Can we talk at 1 o'clock? That, that is an option. So minimizing this trivia stuff. And that's, the Pomodoro effect. That's managing our emails, learning how to say no, which we're going to do here in a moment. The last quadrant, this is what we are not doing unless we're on a break. Because remember, breaks are important. And we do need some waste time in our days. It is helpful to watch a funny video on TikTok. It is helpful to chat with, a friend. Not gossip though. It's not, well, that one's, well, you're gonna take that one off the list for sure. But, to connect with people, to take that walk, right? So waste means this isn't things you want to do when we need to be productive. These are our breaks. If you are one of those people that are in a habit of not taking a break, highly encourage you to change that habit. Really important. I don't have, the numbers to throw at you right now, but the brain, the body, we need to take those breaks so we can come back and be clearer and more accurate. Think about, you start your day at 8, you end your day at 5, you just go full on without taking a break. There is no possible way you're going to be as accurate and productive at 5 as you were at 8. It's just not possible. Okay, I want to make sure I teach you how to say no before we end our day. This is sometimes it's really hard for people. And the reason it's necessary is because if we always say yes, what's going to happen? Let me see that in chat. If you always say yes, what is going to be the outcome to that? There we go. Overwhelm, not productive, no accomplishment, overextending ourselves. And here's the key word here, burnout, right? And really good, right? People will continue to expect you to say yes, right? If you always say yes, then that's going to be, you're teaching people that that's what you do. This is not healthy for you, your boss, or the organization, because the organization wants you to do things well and accurate. But there's of course a right way to do this. And so the model is called the USA model. It's an acronym. U stands for understand, S stands for situation, A stands for action. This is what you're doing. Somebody asks you to do something. Maybe they think that they're in the crisis quadrant. Step 1 is make sure you understand the request. Sometimes we're making assumptions and we aren't even clearly understanding what the request is. So you might say something like, I understand, even if it's the boss, right? I understand, boss, you're asking me to complete this budget report by 4:30 this afternoon, and you want to have 3 pivot tables and a PowerPoint presentation. Like, am I understanding that correctly? And they might say, no, I don't need it at 4:30. I meant 4:30 tomorrow. Oh, okay. Or they say, yes, I need 4:30. I need it in 4:30 today. Yes, you got that right. Then we move to open communication. The situation is, I am scheduled to attend the ABC meeting from 4 to 4:30. And I am working on completing this other project that's due today in this next hour. Like, that's the situation. That's what my life looks like right now. It's not fair to assume that everybody else knows what's going on with us, even your boss, right? So let's be transparent and helpful and say, this is the situation, right? This is what's going on. And then the third piece is action, which is, this is what I can do. We aren't saying no, but we're problem solving. And we're saying, this is what I can do. I can skip the 4 o'clock meeting because then I would have time for this. I can push back the deadline, right, with your approval. I can, stop working on project A, finish that tomorrow, and work on this new project now. Or I can do this and I can have it done by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, not 4:30 this afternoon. This is what I can do. I've got some examples here that you can play with because you don't have to use the words understand situation and action, right? You use your own vocabulary, whatever sounds and feels natural to you. This works in your private life too. It is incredibly empowering, and it helps you be more honest and clear with those that you work with. Because really all you're doing is communicating, which is a respectful thing to do. Your boss, your colleague needs to know what's going on with you right now in order to understand, your response. What do y'all think of this? I would love to see some feedback. Is this a model that you think would help you manage, organize and prioritize your time and, maybe reduce some burnout and overwhelm? How many of you feel like you could use this model and say these words? Understand situation and action. Okay. I've got a definitely. That makes me happy. All right. And absolutely. That's also great. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Brennan. Right? Saying the words at first will be tough. Yes, it will. Right? But what are you willing to do a little bit more of to set yourself up for success? Maybe you practice at home, right? When your family member wants you to bring the main course to the family dinner on the weekend. And you're like, I can't do that, right? So I understand you want me to bring the steak to Saturday's family dinner. The situation is I have 2 sick kids at home. I am already bringing the side dishes. This is what I can do. I can bring some hamburgers. I can, instead of bringing the salad and the dessert, I can bring the steak. Like, this is what I can't do. Or next family dinner, I can bring the steak. All right, we are running out of time. So you can practice this on your own, right? Here's an activity. You can use these. Even better, use real situations and start practicing. Those of you who are working in a remote environment, I've got just a couple things here to help you stay on track that you might already be doing. One of the things that I like to remind folks is, again, to take those breaks. It's really hard when you're working remotely to say, forget the break. Don't do that. Establish a routine. You want to make sure that you have something that is telling your brain, my work day is starting and my work day is ending. Even if it's as simple as closing the door to where you work at 5 o'clock. Like, you're reminding yourself, okay, I am now transitioning to something else. Or the first thing you do every morning is take 2 minutes and declutter, right? That's a routine. So those are going to help you stay clear, productive, on track. I also think dressing appropriately. Even though you might not see anybody that day, ask yourself, what does it feel like to dress for work? Does that have an impact on how I, function during the day? Some of you might say, no, I'm really, productive in jammies and slippers. Okay, cool, right? Not me, right? When I'm in jammies and slippers, I'm a different person. I have a different mindset than if I dressed for work. And then, make sure you're connecting with people, throughout the day. Even those of us who don't, need people, we still need to know that we have a purpose and impact. People are counting on us. Those connections are really important. Okay, so we have reached 10 o'clock. I really enjoyed talking with all of you. I'm hopeful that there is something on your action plan that you're going to be willing to implement as early as today. I think that's the best thing to do. So I also am putting a link here if you want to take a few minutes and provide some feedback on today's presentation. Of course, we always appreciate that. We want to make sure we're meeting your needs. And I wish you all a organized and productive day. All right. Thank you so much. If you do have questions, I'm happy to stay here a couple more minutes. I know I went to the very end, but.
Yes, we do have time for Q&A, so if you have some questions, put those in the chat right now and we'll go through those. I'd also like to remind people that the recording to this webinar will be sent out afterwards, so if you had to step away for a moment or if you have other people that you feel like probably need to see this more than others, I know where you're coming from, you can always send this out later, come back, rewatch, that sort of thing. And if you would like the slides, a PDF of them will be available upon request if you reach out to us. Let me see. Any questions in the chat?
I'm not seeing any yet, but we can give it a little bit more time here to make sure.
A couple minutes.
Yeah.
Awesome.